Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Legality TV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. Once again, let's welcome Barrister Austin Manta, a very senior legal practitioner who has been in the practice for over 40 years and a very good public affairs analyst. Barrister, thank you once again for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here once again.
Yeah, for those of you who probably some of you have been following us and have been asking one question or the other about this issue of how I interview Barrister Manta. This is not an interview, it's an interactive. This show is an interactive show where I am not a journalist, so I ask Barrister Manta questions. If the answers that I don't have questions that I don't have answers to, I ask Barrister Manta to give answers to that. And if I have any input on that, any opinion or input on any matter, any topic, I add the whole thing too. That's the way we run on this. We roll on this show. It's an interactive show. It's not an interview per se. It's just a show where we talk about issues, we discuss issues. A sort of, if I don't have anything to say, but Samantha says it all, and that's just it. That being said, let's go to the topic of the. We have several issues to talk about today, but let's start with uh, the uh, the squabble in Senate. I'll call it the embarrassment and the show of shame in the Senate. Nigeria's Senate. That is the third arm of the government. Is this one of the three arms of the government? I don't even know which one takes first and second. I think they are all equal. So Barrister, so many things have happened between Senator Natasha Akpoti and the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Uh, I don't understand. I just want to. I've done a monologue twice on that issue actually, but I want us to talk about it from your own angle. What is your opinion on that? Now she's been suspended. To me, I call it unfairly suspended. Excuse me. The committees. Let me read just the recommendation of the committees. It's a long whatever, but just the recommendation of the committees. Following its committee's recommendations, following its findings, the committee recommended a 6-month suspension for Mrs. Akpoti Oduwaga with effect from 6th March with additional penalties, including withdrawal of all her security aids. The committee also recommended the closure of Mrs. Akpoti Oduwaga's office within the National Assembly and hand over all Senate properties in her possession in the clerk, in her possession to the clerk to the National Assembly. The panel also recommended prohibition from entering the National Assembly premises during the period of suspension and that her salaries and allowances should be suspended. The panel also recommended that the Kogi senator should be barred from representing herself as a senator. But it should be presenting herself, not represent. That's what they wrote here. Instead of it's supposed to say presenting herself as a senator, both locally and internationally during the period of her suspension. Barrister, I don't know you as a lawyer now. Before we even go into the back and forth between Natasha and the senator, is this legal? Why? First, the Senate president is just a senator among equals. They are all equals. Well, his position there is just a privilege. That is just, it doesn't make him superior. It just that in every ship you must have a captain. There must be leadership in any organization. That is that. So his position is just a position of necessity. That is just the reality. So I don't know legally is she, because they strip her of everything in fact as it is now. But if we go by this recommendation, if we follow this recommendation, it obviously means that in the next 6 months, Senator Natasha is not a senator, will not be a senator, will not be referred as a senator. It will be on record that for 6 months she was not a senator in the 4 years of her term. Barrister, is it legal? Because I was
Well,
made to understand, I was made to understand that I think she's fighting it in court or whatever. And it's so okay. We'll come to the fact that the entire no single one of our colleagues, not even the two other women in the house in the Senate chambers, are on her side on this. Go ahead, please.
yes, before I come to whether the suspension is legal or not, I must comment briefly on the conduct of the senator in the Senate chambers. You know, this started with her refusal to move to another chair that she had been relocated to.
Yes.
And that degenerated into shouting match and disruption of the Senate proceedings. Subsequently, allegations of sexual
Harassment.
misconduct.
Yeah.
Can
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, subsequently, allegations of sexual harassment were raised by her. And as you rightly pointed out, her colleagues did not come to her aid. Even the female colleagues, senator colleagues, did not come to her aid. Probably it's because of her antecedents, because I'm told this thing that she had been making accusations of sexual misconduct before against other people. There was allegation that she made allegations of sexual misconduct against Omokri when he was a special assistant to the president. And she ended up paying damages when it was proved to be false. Perhaps with that in mind, the senators, including female colleagues, were cautious to rush to her defense, apart from the conduct that she displayed on in the well of the Senate. Having said that, on the legality of the suspension, we must first understand that every organization has rules to moderate its conduct. If there is no rules to moderate the conduct, the whole proceedings can easily degenerate into confusion and chaos. So the Senate has its rules to regulate the conduct of proceedings, the conduct of its members in the Senate. And there are provisions for suspension of a Senate in those rules. The question is, the length of the suspension, the 6-month suspension, it is not anticipated that a senator will be suspended for 6 months. And under the Senate rules, Order 67, if a senator misconducts himself or herself in a minor way, that senator can be suspended for the duration of the legislative session. That is that particular day. If it is not minor, if it is a serious offense, the senator can be suspended for 48 hours to highest 14 days. There has been recurrent suspension of senators.
Yeah.
And there has been continuous pronouncement by the courts that the suspensions are illegal. I mentioned on your show before that one of the biggest problems we have in the country is lack of respect for the law. Anytime an organization or a powerful person wants to bend the law to his side, they configure it or interpret it as it suits them. If the Senate, which is the highest legislative making body in the country, will not respect the rule of law, then who else? What democracy are we talking about? The courts have, on several occasions, nullified the suspension of senators, nullified the suspension of House of Reps members as being illegal and unconstitutional. But they continue doing it. That is absolute lack of respect for the rule of law. I will give you an example. From 2000, the year 2000, Senator Joseph Waku was suspended. In 2002, Otonjeribe was suspended. In 2024, Abdul Ningi was suspended. In 2018, in the House of Reps, Abdul Mumini JIBRIN was given 180 days, legislative days suspension. Now, some of these senators did not challenge their suspension, but some of them challenged their suspension in court. In 2017, Ali Ndume was suspended for 90 legislative days. And don't forget, when you talk of legislative day, they have 3 legislative days in a week.
In a week, yeah. So it's almost
when
a
you
year.
talk of 90 legislative days, it's not just ordinary. You compare 2 weeks, you see what it means.
Of course.
And the Federal High Court nullified the suspension and declared it illegal, unlawful, and unconstitutional. In 2018, Ovi Omo Agege was initially suspended for 181 legislative days.
Wow.
They later reduced it to 90 days. The court, in that case, also nullified that suspension. There were other members of the House of Reps that were suspended, and the court had always nullified such suspension. So if you are the Senate president, and if you are the Senate, and the court has ruled on the same thing you are doing now, and you ignore it and continue to do it, where is the rule of law? Where is the respect for the law? When they know what they have done is wrong, is unconstitutional. And by the way, by common sense, like you pointed out, the Senate president is just one among equals. Each senator represents a constituency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. To suspend the senator for that long, 6 months, and deprive that constituency of a voice in that high legislative body does not make sense. It's not envisaged by our constitution at all. But they continue doing it, and they continue getting away with it because they feel that there's nothing anybody can do, in spite of what the courts have ruled in the past. So you see it coming again and again. Tomorrow, if another senator stands up and makes some accusation that some people don't like, he will still face suspension. By the way, the senator, what they used to call bringing the Senate into disrepute, that's the language they use. Your conduct that brings the Senate into disrepute. Allegations are made. No matter their frivolity, no matter that you feel that there's no basis for the allegation, still, it is the highest legislative body. Give Nigerians the benefit of doubt. Investigate it and let us have a clear picture of what happened before you take action. Now, you go ahead and suspend a senator for 6 good months, deprive his or her constituency a voice in that Senate. When they are all equal, each constituency comes to that Senate to present its views, to guard against anything that will be done that will be disadvantageous to that constituency and to help promote the interests of the constituency. You have taken 6 months, you deprive them of that voice. You deprive them of any advantage that will come to them during that time. This is unfair, it's illegal, it's unlawful, and it's uncalled for.
What do we expect from a government, Tinubu's government, and Akpabio's Senate? What do we expect? In fact, the only body in the national at the National Assembly that has a little kind of decorum is the House of Rep, which has Senator Honorable the Speaker, the Honorable Abbas, what's his name? Tijani Abbas. as the speaker. That's the only. I've never had no scandal there. The man seemed to be. Although I know him, he's a really, really, really gentleman because I know him at least on a close. We've traveled together on the same flight, so we traveled to some countries together. So it's someone I know. He's a very, very gentleman. Is quiet. He barely talks. Is sort of so. I can understand his own whatever. So somebody like him, that is even though I disagree with his policies and how they actually bow to Tinubu, I just admire he's the only one that I can refer to as a responsible leader at the National Assembly. Very, very, very. His modus operandi is completely, and his lifestyle completely in conflict, completely different from that of Akpabio, who behaves like a hooligan, who behaves like an area boy. Very, very responsible. Now, of course, we don't expect all we expect from someone like Akpabio's leadership is lawlessness. His Oga at the top, which is the president, they are all lawless. They don't respect the courts. The courts are on. The courts are become their stooges. A sort of so. Barrister. Now you made mention of the reason why they have two other female colleagues were not in support of her. You gave an example of her doing the same thing to someone that they eventually found out that she lied against Omokri and probably she paid compensation. I have not, I only heard about that, but I didn't know the details. I didn't know that she paid damages to Omokri. Maybe you will clarify that. But yeah, while we have an example of similar thing she did that was not on her side in the past, we also have the example that Akpabio did the same thing to someone, even in the Senate there, and even behind, beyond the Senate. Remember the NNDC MD, former NNDC MD that accused. I don't know if you read the story then. That accused Akpabio too. In fact, in her own case, she said she literally slapped Akpabio. So when Akpabio made advances at her, both of them, if we say she has her own bad antecedents, Akpabio has his own bad antecedents, and I don't know. Based on what you know so far, do you believe her?
Well, based on my own history, based on what I know, and based on the fact that for a long time, allegations of rape, sexual harassment, and others have always required corroboration because of the character of women. Yeah. I always hesitate to give a blanket approval to allegations of sexual misconduct, allegations of rape, from experience I had since I was a youth, and from the nature of women in general. That's why in the court, the law requires some evidence of corroboration in matters like this. I am not in a position to say one way or the other whether the allegations are true or false, but I would rather have wished that a proper investigation were conducted. Don't forget the person of the senator, Natasha. She's a very prominent person, well-known, well outspoken. She's a fighter. And you remember her fight with the former governor of Kogi State. She fought him to a standstill. And even against all odds, when the governor deployed the entire machinery of the state to stop her from coming to the Senate, she won.
Still won. Yeah.
So a strong woman like that, I just feel allegations of sexual harassment a bit strange to me somehow. Now, we have categories of sexual harassment. It will not go down to physically attempting to have carnal knowledge of a woman.
No, sorry to cut you short. I don't know if you watched her interview on Arise. She actually defined the sexual harassment we are talking about. So let's talk based on her what she has confessed already.
Yes, I know. I remember what she said. Some things like the Senate president
made advances. Yeah, that's just it.
Made advances and inviting her to meet him
Correct.
at the hotel. Now, if the Senate president invited her to meet him at a hotel, that by itself is not sexual harassment. She can say no. Simply, if the president of the Senate put some other pressure, did some other things to put her under duress, to meet her there, that would be the harassment. The mere invitation, come and meet me at the hotel, cannot amount to sexual harassment.
But she expatiated on that too, on that interview. She was detailed about it. It's not just about the invitation. Senator Akpabio, according to her, followed up with her. She first of all rejected the first one, and Senator Akpabio got to the extent of really threatening her by his position, with his position rather. So that is the point here. Threatening, look, reminded her that he is the head of the Senate, that he can do and undo. I'm paraphrasing now, a sort of.
Let me also say that some of the things she stated, because she said when she went to, I think, an occasion that happened at Akpabio's home, that Akpabio took her to show her his expansive.
Yes.
And in that process, the sexual harassment occurred.
Yeah.
There is a senator who came out and said he was in that house, and Natasha did not even come out of the car, not to talk of the senator taking her to show her the house.
Okay, all right. Hold on, Barrister. I don't want to, because this is going to take our time. I don't want us to litigate this whole thing now on here, because it will stretch our time. Now, my point is, if that didn't happen, then what do you think would be the reason behind her squabble, her back and forth, her conflict with the Senate president? Because what happened at the house, what happened in the public with that everybody witnessed, was not the beginning. It was an aggressive. It was a kind of accumulated aggression of frustration behind the scene of what has happened in the past. So what could be because honestly, remember I said when that thing eventually, when I watched that video, what came to my mind first, honestly, was this issue, that it was this harassment, that it was possible that the Senate president wanted her out, or sort of. That was what came to my mind. Because what else? Why is it, Senator? Why not with other women? Why her?
Don't forget that the Senate president and Natasha have been close friends. The Senate president and the husband, Duagan, have been very close friends. And she was on a committee. She was the chair of a committee in the Senate. At a point, Akpabio removed her from that committee. Some people are speculating that that is the grouse she had with the Senate president. That is part of the...
Don't you think that was the reason why in the first place, because she rejected his offer, that was why he took her away from the committee?
It could swing both ways. It could be that...
Yeah, that is the point.
She started and then snowballed into her being removed from the Senate chair of the committee. It could also be the other way, that the remover from the
because
committee,
if you correct, because if we all agree that they've been friends even before she became a senator, a family friend, friends to the husband, our friends to herself, it's sort of. So what could be the reason? What other thing do you think could be the reason why Senator Akpabio took her off the chair? In fact, in the first place, I believe her relationship, between the two families' relationship, was the reason, I hope so, I think so, was the reason why in the first place she was appointed as the chair of the committee. Sort of. So what could be the reason? What don't you think that psychologically, what makes sense is, okay, if excuse me, he was appointed, she was favored in his side and was appointed as the committee chair, and eventually she was taken off the chairmanship of the committee. That means something happened behind the scene. It is just not based on credibility or objectivity that she was taken. She was dethroned.
Definitely is in the realm of speculation. One would be right to make that speculation. And also, let me add that the other female senators, particularly King Igwe, outspoken
Yes.
against Natasha. She has openly said that Natasha has enjoyed more than all other female senators privileges from the Senate president in the Senate, more than the rest of them female senators. And she also said that she is aware that Natasha told her that she met Akpabio in a hotel. So all these things, like I'm saying, are in the realm of speculation. It could be that the other female senators are jealous of her because of the special treatment that the Senate president was giving her. And then when these incidents happened, they all
but honestly, that the women were not on her side, it's not surprising to me. It's not that is no surprise to me. That's just the reality. Women are never on each other's back. They are all never on each other's side. The women are that's natural of them. They are jealous of themselves. They envy each other. So they are always fighting. If they are not fighting each other in the public, they are fighting each other within themselves. It's sort of you just through their body languages. So it's no surprise to me. Now that is what don't you think that should be an evidence that there was something that is actually there is truth to what she said, or what she's claiming. Because if this woman has had all the privileges above her peers, and Senator Akpabio has favor, she found favor in the sight of the Senate president. Hence, all the privileges above her peers, to the extent that her peers possibly started envying her, being jealous of her. But at the end of the eventually, these same privileges were just cut short for probably no reason. Don't you think that what you just said now is the another reason that you lawyers can be referred to as circumstantial evidence? That is just because the truth is that honestly, look, if it were someone else, another man, I could have doubted her, because like me, I've always been critical of people who always say believe all women. Because in my environment, women they abuse that privilege. They in fact they lie against men a lot. If they have something against you, they can just, and sometimes they do it because if they want to gain something from you in a mischievous way, they do that. So I don't believe all women. I believe story by story, not all. But I listen to you, I go through the evidence or whatever, through the story, and make my own assumption or judgment, just like that of Natasha. Natasha, again, like I said on my monologue, I said it. The story, I'm not ready to go through the holes that I picked there. Her own story too. When she was at Akpabio, I picked holes in her stories actually. But at the same time, overall, I personally believe her, because Akpabio has antecedents. Not one, not two. Even in the Senate there, we've had a situation where another female senator, accused him of harassment, sexual harassment. And what do you expect? Akpabio is an irresponsible man. Because this issue of you are in a home where you have one person that everybody knows as a thief. The moment anything misses in the house, even if not be the person doing, even if it is not the person that stole it, everybody every finger will be pointing at that same thief that everyone knows that has been stealing things in the house. That's exactly. Akpabio is not a responsible man. He is an indecent man, a man who is he's not only vulgar, he's flippant, he just talks anyhow and behaves anyhow. He does not have decorum in his life. So what do you expect from a man like that?
Well, by the same token, since I'm commenting as the lawyer, by the same token, we will say that if you cry wolf one time, the second time you cry wolf, people will not take you serious. Reno Omokri has come out to say that when he was the special assistant to the president received a foreign head of state. In that occasion, for some reason, Natasha accused him of sexual harassment in that occasion. His salvation was that he was able to bring out his passport and show that at that time he was out of the country. He had been out of the country on assignment for 1 month and came back a month after that particular incident. So when he brought it up, she deleted all her accusations which she put online, and all the insults that she put, she deleted them and got some pastors to beg him for forgiveness, and eventually paid him a large amount of money to forget the matter. So if you have that background, assuming that story is true, we say once you cry wolf one time and they come and they didn't see the wolf, the next time you cry wolf, people will not come.
Yeah,
It's the same, it can hang
go
both
these
ways.
ways. Yeah, go
Yes.
both ways. Yeah. All right. All right. You have your own. You have your own permutation on that. I have. The truth is, while I didn't know that that case, that her situation between herself and the Amokri in the past. If she had done it in the past, well, that was bad. But again, on this issue, unfortunately, just like you are giving reason why you doubt what she said. That's her problem now, because sometimes somebody may be doing something wrongly, but because people have already known him or her for doing something wrongly, and so they whenever she does something, everybody just ignores and whatever. But eventually something happens and it may be real, but because of her antecedents or his antecedents, nobody listens or wants to believe him or her anymore. Anyway, that is just it. Anyway, my opinion, generally, like I said, I rather believe her. She may have done some stuff in the past, but on this, honestly, I really believe, I know, I believe that Akpabio will do such a thing. He will. There are people you just can't. You just when you listen, when you hear, when they are accused of something, you just this person he go do am, and that is just my take anyway. Let's move. Okay.
Let me end by saying that if we had a proper country with its organs and machinery function properly, this is a criminal. Sexual harassment is a criminal offense.
Yes.
It ought to be investigated by the appropriate criminal organizations. We should not be talking this thing on the Senate floor. It ought to go to police, and a professional police organization would conduct a professional investigation
And Natasha is even a lawyer.
and bring out the report. But because we have a dysfunctional country, we are now speculating instead of waiting to see the report from an investigation that will be
No, but
conducted.
she has eventually taken it to court now.
This, like I said, is a criminal offense. She has taken the Senate to court, but the allegation ought to be submitted to the police for professional investigation. But because we have a dysfunctional country where the number 3 person cannot be investigated,
Yeah,
cannot possibly be investigated by the police or security agencies. That is why we are talking about this thing here. That is why it is now in the court of public opinion, with everybody now having to put or say his opinion. And these are examples of how the country has failed.